The Saturn V was already climbing when the question began. Not in mission control. Not in the spacecraft. In the sky. Apollo 12 rose from Cape Kennedy beneath clouds that many people could see and almost nobody could fully understand. The rocket carried 3 astronauts toward the moon. Beneath them, millions of pounds of fuel were being burned. Around them, the possibility of turning back was shrinking with every second. At that moment, the mission depended on something simple. A healthy spacecraft leaving Earth. The Saturn V climbed higher, disappearing into the weather. Then the sky answered. A flash of lightning cut through the clouds and struck the rocket. For an instant, the image seemed impossible. A vehicle built to reach another world had become part of a storm. The rocket did not break apart. It did not fall. It kept climbing. From the ground, that might have looked reassuring. Inside the control rooms, it did not. Across mission displays, numbers suddenly changed. Indicators flickered. Signals no longer behaved as expected. Information that had seemed trustworthy moments earlier became difficult to interpret. The spacecraft was still flying. The certainty that it was healthy was not. A second lightning strike followed seconds later. Again, the rocket continued upward. The Saturn V moved farther from Earth, while confidence remained behind. The immediate question was not whether the mission could reach the moon. It was much simpler. What still worked? Controllers stared at streams of telemetry arriving from a spacecraft already beyond physical reach. The astronauts could not stop and inspect hardware. Engineers could not open panels and look for damage. Everything depended on electrical signals crossing the distance between the vehicle and the ground. And those signals no longer made complete sense. The launch had transformed from a transportation problem into an information problem. The rocket kept moving. Understanding did not. Yet movement had its own momentum. The spacecraft continued through ascent. Stages separated. Mission milestones arrived exactly when they were supposed to. Apollo 12 behaved in many visible ways like a mission still on track. That was the contradiction. The vehicle looked healthy enough to continue. Nobody could be completely certain that it was. Then a clue appeared. An engineer recognized that the strange readings resembled the effects of a disrupted electrical reference system. A switch inside the spacecraft was changed. Telemetry began returning to normal. Displays that had been filled with confusion started making sense again. Numbers stabilized. Signals reappeared. Control returned. For a moment, the story seemed finished. Lightning had caused an electrical disturbance. The disturbance had been corrected. The spacecraft was functioning again. Evidence supported that conclusion everywhere people looked. Data flowed. Systems responded. Commands worked. Apollo 12 remained alive and operational. The temporary answer felt convincing because it matched what could be observed. The mission had survived. Except survival was not the same thing as certainty. The recovered telemetry revealed something important. It revealed function. It did not reveal condition. No camera could inspect every wire. No astronaut could examine every hidden component. No engineer could look inside sealed systems while the spacecraft sped away from Earth. The lightning strike had happened. That part was known. The absence of hidden damage was not. And the farther Apollo 12 traveled, the more visible that limitation became. Earth grew smaller behind it. The moon waited ahead. The opportunity to obtain better evidence disappeared mile by mile. The spacecraft became a machine understood only through signals. Signals could show that a system responded. Signals could not prove that every vulnerable component had escaped harm. The same telemetry that restored confidence also exposed its limits. Controllers could see what the spacecraft was doing. They could not see everything that had happened to it. That realization changed the story. The central question was no longer what the lightning had done. The central question became whether incomplete evidence was enough. Apollo 12 approached a decision point that could not be postponed indefinitely. Continuing deeper into the mission meant increasing commitment. Stopping meant abandoning a lunar expedition based on a possibility that could not be confirmed. Neither option came with certainty. The spacecraft continued toward the moon. The astronauts carried on with their mission. Every successful maneuver seemed to support the decision. Yet success itself created another trap. It became tempting to look backward and assume the choice had been obvious. It was not. The people making the decision did not possess the ending. They possessed only the information available at the time. A spacecraft struck by lightning, recovered telemetry, functioning systems, and unanswered questions. As Apollo 12 moved through lunar orbit, completed its objectives, and eventually returned home, the visible outcome became clear. The mission succeeded. The astronauts reached the moon. The spacecraft performed its duties. Nothing hidden emerged to destroy the expedition. History often compresses events into outcomes. Successful mission. Problem solved. Correct decision. But outcomes cannot travel backward through time. They cannot give certainty to people who never had it. The lightning strike remained important precisely because the mission worked. Success did not prove the decision was risk-free. Success proved that a decision had been made under uncertainty and happened to lead to a favorable result. The event left consequences beyond Apollo 12 itself. NASA examined the circumstances surrounding the launch and developed stricter thinking about weather and triggered lightning. Future missions would approach similar conditions differently. Not because Apollo 12 failed, because it revealed how much could be at stake when certainty disappears. The image that endures is still the same one. A Saturn V climbing into storm clouds. A flash of lightning reaching toward it. A rocket continuing upward as though nothing had happened. At first glance, it looks like a story about surviving a strike. By the end, it becomes something else. The rocket kept moving farther from any possibility of inspection, while certainty lagged behind on the ground. The real achievement was not merely that Apollo 12 survived lightning. It was that people had to decide whether survival was enough evidence to continue. And they had to make that judgment before certainty could ever catch up.